Hello and welcome to Army News. This week's newscast is a special presentation of some of the best stories and soldier profiles produced by Army News to date. So stay with us. We have a great lineup of interesting news for you to watch.
Hi, I'm Corporal Gaston with the Military Police, and you're watching Army News.
Our first story deals with Clothe the Soldier program. I covered this story to find out where the program is at and what new kit soldiers can expect to be in their hands soon.
In 1995, the Canadian Forces introduced the Clothe the Soldier program, providing soldiers serving at home or abroad with the latest in equipment and clothing technology. Each year, the Canadian textile industry holds a symposium where a variety of companies display their latest developments in the high-tech equipment and clothing trade. Major Doug Palmer, Project Director of Clothe the Soldier program for Land Staff, was on hand and provided this update.
Clothe the Soldier project is a $287 million project to upgrade equipment for the Canadian soldier. The Clothe the Soldier project for 2004 is probably going to be in its highest tempo of delivery to the field force that it's been in its history. We've got out of the one-size-hurts-all business. We have, particularly with respect to load carriage, the fragmentation vest will come in 16 different sizes. The rucksack will be in 4 torso lengths with 4 shoulder strap configurations or 4 hip belt configurations.
The project objectives are to improve environmental protection with clothing, headwear, footwear, and gloves, improve ballistic head and body protection, introduce camouflage for temperate and arid regions, and provide soldiers with an integrated load carriage system.
The heavy load isn't going to go away, so you need to make sure that you're sized correctly, that you've got the right configuration so that you can do your job to the best of your ability. Recently, the commander has made the decision that Afghanistan will switch to arid regions based on the advice from his staff, and that capability exists. There are arid regions uniforms, helmet covers, rucksack covers. The tactical vest is still in temperate woodland, but we are looking to manufacture that in arid regions as well. And within, I would say, 18 months, there will be tactical vests in arid regions as well as temperate woodland. Based on the roto of 3 RCR coming back to Canada was indicative, I think, of the comments I've been getting generally. The equipment has been well received, particularly the tactical vest. We're getting a lot of positive feedback. There's always 1 or 2 guys out there who have their concerns, but we are addressing those, and we have actually made a couple of product improvements to the vest based on feedback from Kabul already. We use reservists, we use females, we use males. There is a huge effort to make sure that we get soldier input to all of the items that are being brought into service. So there's a constant movement of information from the field to the Clothe the Soldier project, from the units and the areas and the brigades to give us the latest information on how best to configure or change or manage a particular item so that it works for the soldier in the field. The Clothe the Soldier project becomes the baseline for equipment for the field soldier for the next project called the Integrated Soldier System Platform. Communications, command and control, and intelligence capabilities to the individual soldier, or enhance them, will increase his and her mobility on the battlefield, and we will make some substantial changes probably to the firepower capability as well.
Clothe the Soldier program is an integral part of Army transformation. The next phase will be called the Integrated Soldier System Platform, which will continue to move the Canadian Forces towards becoming the Army of tomorrow.
In Ottawa, for Army News, Sergeant Derek Scott. How does a winter at -40 sound? Well, that's too cold for me, thanks. But for some, it's a challenge of a lifetime. Sergeant Kevin Galena traveled to Hull Beach for this story.
Here in the open Arctic, members from 2 Combat Engineer Regiment from Canadian Forces Base Petawawa are conducting a training exercise with the local Canadian Ranger Patrolling Group.
Well, the primary objective of SOVOP is to demonstrate Canada's ability to operate in the northern environment. From our point of view, we really had 2 major objectives. The first was to conduct engineering tasks in the Arctic, and the second was to get involved with the local community, the Rangers, to experience the culture of the far north. When we first came to the community, we wanted to look for some projects so we could give something back to the community for our visit here. We decided on replacing the floor of their community center that's used every night by the local population.
We came to the community center to replace the community center floor. It was a 2,800 square foot vinyl covered floor that was in bad shape, and now we're replacing it with a vinyl composite floor.
For the community itself, they worked on the community hall's flooring system, and I think they looked at few vehicles and few other things, like also for the economy too, like they are buying supplies from the, especially fuel from the co-op.
Okay.
And for the rangers, this is a chance to do interaction and basically teach, and we learn something from these guys and we teach them at the same time.
All those guys are tough. Oh yes, they are. I shake their hands. It's tough people. They can survive in this climate and everything. Like we got I think his name is Peter, 71 years old. Very tough individual. Just last night, we did the section move, and I actually only had a 1 hour sleep, and he pulled the whole night or two. Yeah, and still awake.
With igloo building, ice fishing, and sealing, the Canadian Rangers are an integral part of the Canadian Forces soldiers up here in the Arctic. This is Sergeant Kevin Gleaner reporting, Army News, Hall Beach, Nunavut.
Our next group of soldiers need no introduction. Sergeant Craig Reed traveled to Paris Valley, California to meet with the Skyhawks as they conduct their preseason training.
16 highly experienced soldiers from across the Canadian Forces gathered in Paris Valley, California to complete their complex advanced parachutist phase of their annual selection to become members of Canada's elite parachutist team, the Skyhawks. The Skyhawks have been conducting their training at Paris Valley since 1986. Skyhawks team captain Troy Neufeld explains why.
We come down here for the weather. Normally, most of that training is conducted in February, March, April, and we start our show season in May. So if we formed up in Canada or out on the East Coast or wherever else, we're running into a lot of problems with weather. So we come down here, we have perfectly blue skies, we have good winds, and we have good weather, and we're able to accomplish the 120 jumps that we aim for to accomplish in our 5 weeks down here.
Always a thrill to make the team, first-time member Corporal Brad McKenzie of 3rd Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, is excited about the upcoming tour of Canada, specifically the dates in Alberta.
For me, I'm looking forward to mostly in the Alberta shows. We're actually going to spend pretty close to a month in Alberta, and they're in close enough location for my wife and my daughter to actually drive and come see the shows in Medicine Hat and Calgary and Cold Lake, and so that's going to be a thrill for them to actually be able to come see me do it. So,
the Skyhawks unofficially began their 2004 season with their performance at the March Air Reserve Base Air Show in Southern California during the last week of April in front of thousands of American families. They captivated the crowd with their professional demonstrations such as the candy cane, dazzling twists and turns, leg locks involving 2 and 3 men in a virtual freefall, sharp descents, and landings that looked amazingly easy. They concluded their show with a salute to the crowd before moving into that same crowd to repack their parachutes and sign autographs for the many amazed families. The Skyhawks are outstanding ambassadors to our country, and it is evident with their performances, their interaction with the people, and the fact that only the best become Skyhawks.
With their first performance complete here at the March Air Reserve Base, the Skyhawks have now officially kicked off their 2004 tour. They will now head home to the Canadian Parachute Center, where they will have some time to unpack their bags, do some much-needed laundry, and repack those same bags as they begin their cross-Canada international tour with their first stop in Japan. The Skyhawks will be coming to a town or city near you. Look for them this summer. Sergeant Craig Reed, Army News, with the Skyhawks, Paris Valley, California.
For more information on your Army and other stories Army News has covered, visit your website at army.gc.ca. We want to hear from you, so send us your feedback and tell us what interesting events are happening in your area. It's easy. All you have to do is go to Army News site, select News, then scroll down and click on Contact Army News. Enter your information and hit send. 2,000 kilometers is a long way to travel, even for a good story. Well, that's exactly what Sergeant Todd Berry did with 36 Armor Reconnaissance soldiers from the Prince Edward Island Regiment who participated on exercise Southern Tango 3, held at Fort Knox, Kentucky.
The Virtual Training Center, commonly known as the Warthogs, has a wall covered with plaques and pictures from Canadian units. That is because virtual reality training here at Fort Knox is second to none.
It's very realistic. When they're sitting in the sims and they'll even lose contact with actually where they're at, it looks and appears to them that they're in the actual fighting vehicle, whether it be a Bradley or whether it be an Abrams. And once they start driving, start maneuvering, gunning, and commanding, it's almost the same as being in the actual vehicle.
Oh, it's good. You learn lots. We don't have a good ground and PEI to cover, so it's nice.
704 T-72 facing north was engaged by other means and destroyed. Over.
My job here is an exercise controller, and I'm operating the system, controlling the movement of the enemy forces, or watching and observing the enemy forces as they're moving across. When the Canadians come in, it's really great because they come in, they know what they need to do, they get in the equipment. Initially there's a small amount of relearning the familiarization with the vehicle, and then they're right in and running missions like they would be back in Canada. You don't have the dust, you don't have the noise distractor, but realism, when you're getting in and you're actually doing the job, is very little difference.
And driver advance. Gunner, you have...
After a long days of simulation training, troops here are receiving a debrief on the mission that they've just completed. This is where simulation training excels. The good and the bad points are pointed out, with the troops able to see it on the screen. For Army News, I'm Sergeant Todd Berry, reporting from Fort Knox, Kentucky.
This next story takes us to Fort Hood, Texas, where close to 400 soldiers from southern Ontario deployed for exercise Maple Lightning. Our reporter from CFB Petawawa, Sergeant Kevin Galena, covered the urban operations exercise, and he filed this report.
Exercise Maple Lightning 2004 is a brigade-level training exercise held down here in Texas. The aim of this exercise is to prepare the soldiers of the brigade for the upcoming Stalwart Guardian exercise in Canadian Forces Base Petawawa.
We're training as a company within a battalion. We have engineers attached, we have medics attached, so there are all kinds of more bits and pieces that we have to put together in order to make the battle work smoothly in our favor. That's really what we're trying to focus on. Operations in complex terrain and working in a collective combat team environment.
Just for those that are sitting around the house and thinking about joining either the reservists or the regular army, just to go for it because of opportunities like this, and it's a great learning experience.
It was a good practice. It got us to practice our tactics. We went through different situations with them and had them actually working in the simulators, doing the exact same thing we'd be doing out here, but without the vehicles.
This is Sergeant Kevin Galena reporting, Army News, Fort Hood, Texas.
Computers have no doubt changed our lives. Just ask 200 soldiers from the 1st Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group who participated in an annual simulated battle known as Virtual RAM. Sergeant Mike Vandenbroek explains.
One Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group is participating in exercise Virtual RAM, a computer-assisted exercise that is designed to exercise the command elements of brigade headquarters and the 10 units that belong to it. The aim is to effectively exercise one CMBG in the ability to conduct operational planning and unit battle procedure at the command level, without the expense and time of deploying troops in the field. We had the chance to talk to the commander of one Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group, Colonel Grant, and he had this to say about exercise Virtual RAM.
This exercise was generated by LFWA headquarters with the assistance of the Army Simulation Center, and it puts the brigade headquarters in a peace support operations in a fictional country in the Balkans. What it is causing us to do is go through a number of planning cycles, starting from a deployment into a theater, doing Chapter 6 peacekeeping operations, transiting into Chapter 7 warfighting, and then back again to Chapter 6. Training time is a precious thing, and it's an expensive thing when you take lots of soldiers to the field. So by us getting our act together first at the staff level and the command level, including the unit headquarters, By the time we get to the field, it'll be time well spent for the soldiers because we won't be wasting their time trying to get our own house in order. From my standpoint, this has been a great exercise for a couple of reasons. One is it's shaken out the brigade headquarters. We are much better now, even after about 5 days of exercising than we were when we got here. But in addition, the unit headquarters, all 10 of them have come out and they've made their own strides, their own improvements in their skill sets. We've made some great strides, and everyone who's been involved in the exercise has learned a lot.
In the end, the lessons learned during Exercise Virtual RAM will help the command elements to both better prepare and plan for troop deployment on exercise or operations. This is Sergeant Mike Vandenberg reporting for Army News, Edmonton.